The stars shimmered like scattered diamonds beyond the thick hull of the observation deck, but Commander Aryn Vael barely noticed them. Her gaze was fixed on the figure standing beside her, quiet, composed, unnervingly still. The human. They called him Lieutenant Callen Ward, though his files noted at least 3 aliases and service records in 2 planetary militias before the Terran Alliance ever acknowledged his existence. To Aryn, he was a weapon dressed in flesh, concealed behind casual eyes and a voice too calm for what he'd seen. "This is your first deployment outside Sol space," she said, her voice low. "Do you even know what we're walking into?" Callen's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile. "They briefed me." No one's ever briefed properly for the Varnak cluster. Behind them, crew members moved with urgency. Aryn could feel the shift in atmosphere. Even the air recyclers seemed quieter, as though the ship itself was waiting for something to go wrong. And something would, because the Varnak didn't send invitations. They sent warnings. The last team they dispatched to this region came back with half its mind shattered, and the other half insisting that the Varnak had whispered to them through dreams. They spoke of shadows folding through time, of voices with no mouths, of logic bent and twisted like heat haze on metal. Callen showed no sign of concern. "You're too relaxed," she muttered. He looked at her, something unreadable flickering behind his eyes. "You invited me. You knew what I was." That was true. The Alliance didn't send diplomats to the Varnak. They sent humans like him. Scars wrapped in smiles, soldiers who had stared at extinction and called it a fair fight. Aryn had studied his dossier. He'd survived the siege of Delkoth Prime by fighting without reinforcements for 5 days, eating his own dead to stay alive, then convincing the enemy garrison to surrender by broadcasting a loop of him walking calmly through artillery fire. She'd requested him personally. The shuttle to the surface was ready. The Varnak had agreed to parley, a first in centuries.
No one understood why.
No one trusted it. But if the Varnak wanted to speak to a Terran, she'd bring them a Terran carved from the heart of human madness. The descent through the atmosphere was silent. Aryn sat across from Callen, watching him rest with his eyes closed, breathing slow and deliberate. He wasn't praying. Humans didn't pray before battle. They calculated, adapted, survived. The things other species evolved to fear, predators, the dark, starvation humans had learned to endure. And then weaponize. The Varnak city was less a structure than a living geometry. Shapes bent impossibly in the distance, pulsing with energy that tickled the edges of Aryn's mind. She steeled herself. Varnak telepathic fields were notorious for sowing fear. The last time she'd been this close, her thoughts had unraveled into a screaming loop of childhood memories and abstract dread. Callen stepped off the shuttle like he was walking into a warm bar. They were greeted by 3 Varnak envoys, hovering masses of light and angled bone. They moved like liquid mirrors, shifting into humanoid shapes to communicate. The central figure spoke directly into Aryn's thoughts. "We speak not with you, Offworlder. Bring us the one who fears nothing." Aryn stepped back. Callen didn't flinch. The Varnak tilted, their bodies glitching at the edges as if struggling to maintain form. One reached toward him with a spined appendage, a gesture meant to trigger empathy or pain. Instead, Callen grabbed the appendage. He didn't squeeze.
He didn't strike.
He just held it. "You wanted to know what makes us frightening," Callen said, his voice cold as the void. "You've studied our history. You've seen the wars. But that's not what you're afraid of. You're afraid we don't need a reason." The Varnak trembled. "You are not guided by survival?" they asked. Callen's smile returned, thin and devoid of warmth. "We surpassed survival long ago. What we do now, we do because we choose to." There it was. Aryn felt the shift. The Varnak pulled back, not in defeat, but in calculation. For the first time, they understood. They had summoned a predator to study, expecting primal rage and instinct. Instead, they met something worse, a sentient force that could choose peace and still carry war in its bones. The negotiations began with no further challenge. Words were exchanged in thought and voice, tension unraveling like ice melting beneath slow flame. Afterwards, back aboard the command ship, Aryn found herself alone with Callen once more. "They're not going to forget you," she said. "I'm not meant to be forgotten," he replied. She studied him, then turned away. "You scare them." He didn't respond right away. Then softly, "Good." The lights dimmed as the ship began its retreat. Aryn allowed herself one last glance toward the dying stars of the Varnak cluster. They would live. Not because they had the stronger fleet. Not because of diplomacy. But because, when the monsters came calling, humanity had sent something darker and made it smile. The silence between them had grown longer since the meeting with the Varnak, but Aryn knew better than to mistake quiet for peace. Callen sat alone in the ship's war room, staring at a shifting hologram of alien threat assessments. His fingers moved slowly along the data stream, rewinding, enhancing, pausing, never missing a detail. He didn't just review the enemy. He absorbed them, studied them like prey. Aryn stepped inside without announcing herself. "We're being watched." Callen didn't look up. "We've been watched since we left orbit. The crew is afraid of you." His fingers paused. "They should be." She frowned. "That's not what we're here for." "We're here to ensure survival," he said, turning toward her. "And sometimes, the price of survival is fear." That was the part no one ever said out loud. Not in briefings. Not in after-action reports. There was an unspoken truth to Terran deployment. Humans were terrifying, not just because of what they could do, but because of how calmly they did it. Soldiers from other species charged in screams and ceremony. Humans made war look like a business transaction, cold, deliberate, efficient. The Varnak had retreated, for now. But there was something worse lurking just beyond their borders. Something no one had dared to name. Aryn crossed the room, activated the encrypted channel, and projected the image that still haunted her dreams. A black mass, hundreds of kilometers wide, drifting through space without propulsion or sound. It had appeared after the Varnak incident, unregistered, unresponsive, unkillable. "We need to talk about the artifact." Callen studied the image. "That's not an artifact." "Then what is it?" He hesitated, a rare thing for him. "That's the edge of a mind." Aryn's blood went cold. "Explain." He walked to the edge of the projection and tapped through several layers of filtered scans. There were stories back in early Earth naval files, ships that vanished, planets that turned silent, entire sectors that went dark without warning. The official line was black holes. Pirate incursions. Systemic failure. "You're telling me?" "I'm telling you that humans encountered something long before they were ready. And it changed them." She stared at him. "And now it's back?"
No.
"Now we're ready." His voice didn't rise, didn't tremble. That was what unsettled her most. Aryn paced slowly, the war room lights flickering across her reflection in the polished floor. "You mean to provoke it?" "I mean to meet it, understand it, scare it if necessary." She laughed, short, bitter. "You think you can scare that?" "I think fear is a language," he replied. "And humans are fluent." Her thoughts circled the memories of Delkoth Prime, the battle she had studied so many times, where Callen had become legend. The recordings showed a man walking through fire and ruin, untouched. No shield, no power armor, just relentless, fearless advance. She once believed it was bravado. Now she knew better. "I watched you in that room with the Varnak," she said softly. "You weren't posturing. You meant it when you said we don't need a reason." Callen turned away from the projection and looked at her. "I meant every word." She nodded slowly. "You're not like other humans." "No," he admitted, "but I'm what they become when they stop asking permission to survive." The weight of that sentence settled between them like gravity. Aryn knew then why the higher-ups had released him from covert deployment. He wasn't just an asset, he was a signal. Then what happens if you lose control? Callen smiled, and it chilled her more than any alien telepathy ever could. "That's not your real question." She hesitated.
No.
"I suppose it isn't." He stepped closer, his presence like a drawn blade. "Your real question is, what happens if I don't?" The ship shuddered. Not from external fire or mechanical fault, but something deeper. A pressure that hummed through the bones. The crew felt it too, panicked whispers echoing down the corridor. Callen looked at the projection again. The mind on the edge of known space had noticed them.
"Time's up," he said.
Aryn felt the moment shift, as if the galaxy itself had inhaled. For the first time, she wasn't sure who the real threat was, the thing waiting in the dark or the human beside her, about to walk into it. And not flinch. The void welcomed them. Not the silence of space, the absence of life, of pattern. The black anomaly drifted before them like an open wound in the stars, absorbing light and logic alike. No data returned from scans. No echoes bounced back. It was not simply unknown. It was unknowable. Commander Aryn Vael stood on the bridge, watching the dark swell through the viewport. The crew held their breath, instruments clutched with white knuckles, whispers dying in throats. None of them knew what it was. Most doubted they should be here. But Callen Ward stood at the helm, as if the abyss had asked for him by name. "Signals increasing," one officer said quietly. "But it's not a transmission. It's pressure." Callen's voice was steady. "It's contact." Aryn moved to his side, her fingers brushing the comms panel. "Explain." He tapped his temple. "It's not using words. It's measuring us, emotionally, cognitively. Tasting what we fear most. Can you stop it?"
"No."
"But I can make it reconsider." She turned to him fully. "And if you're wrong?" He didn't answer. He stepped forward, closer to the front of the ship, eyes locked onto the anomaly, as if he could see something inside it the rest couldn't. Then he whispered, broadcast open, "I'm going to speak." The bridge fell into stillness. "This is Lieutenant Callen Ward of the Terran Alliance," he said calmly. "You are analyzing us. We're aware. That's fine. We're not here to impress you. We're here to remind you." No one breathed. The pressure intensified. Half the crew staggered, hands pressed to temples. Aryn gritted her teeth. The thing was pushing back.
Callen kept speaking.
"We are the children of fire and winter. We are the architects of mercy and extinction. We do not conquer because we must, but because we choose not to. That is your first and last warning." The darkness pulsed. It did not roar. It did not strike. But a soundless resonance trembled through the ship. The lights dimmed. Blood ran from an ensign's nose. Another collapsed. Aryn turned to Callen. "Whatever this is, it doesn't fear threats." He nodded. "Then we show it something worse." She followed him as he left the bridge, down through the reinforced corridors, past the containment sectors. Each step closer to the lower decks, the pressure thinned, oddly calmer, almost expectant. As though the presence knew where they were going. Aryn watched him open the sealed chamber. Inside, a sphere. Black. Organic. Humming with a slow pulse. The core of what the Varnak called the seed of dissonance. They'd found it floating beyond their territory. The Varnak feared it. Terran studied it. "You brought it aboard?" she asked. "It responds to human thought," Callen replied. "Specifically, to human intent. Not feelings. Intent. That's what this thing fears. Purpose without pity." He placed both hands on the sphere. It shivered. The ship screamed. Not in metal or sound, but in memory. Every screen lit up with fragmented images. Terran wars, extinction events, the burning skies of Earth's early battles, and the moments after, when humans rebuilt what they'd destroyed. Again and again. Never breaking. Never vanishing. Callen's voice echoed through the systems now, as though the ship had become his body. "We do not claim supremacy. We claim survival. You wanted to know what makes us frightening? It's not the blood. It's not the fire. It's the fact we know how to end, and still choose to begin again." The pulse stopped. The anomaly began to collapse inward, folding in on itself like a dying thought. Lights returned. Systems stabilized. The crew gasped in unison, like waking from a shared nightmare. In the quiet that followed, Aryn looked at Callen. His hands were burned, his eyes unfocused. She stepped forward. "You didn't win. You warned it." He nodded slowly. "That's the point. You don't kill a thing like that. You let it know there are worse things than it. And we're one of them. Aryn looked out at the now empty void where the anomaly had been. Stars shone again. What if it comes back? She asked. Callen didn't smile this time. Then we teach it fear again. And for the first time, Aryn understood. The galaxy didn't fear humanity because of what they destroyed. It feared them because, when all others fell to fear, humans chose to stand up. Again. And again. And again.